Live from the Xfinity Studios at WVON. You're listening to Stats and Stilettos.
Talk with Chicago, 1690 WVON, Stats and Stilettos. Good night, everybody. What's going on? I'm Farouk Basir.
I am Ty Eileen.
I am Maya Kai.
And tonight we're going to be doing a pretty much a live Bears watch party on the air. Trying our best to not do play-by-play on the air while we're watching this Bears game. But we're going to see what we can do about that as I need to turn the sound off on my computer there. Phone number here at the station, 773-591-1690. If you want to talk to us, this first hour will pretty much be whatever. We're going to be talking NBA, college football, college basketball, whatever floats people's boats. We're going to be doing that. So, but at 9:20, we'll have a Bulls guest, Christy Toney, Bulls blog on Twitter. And she will be talking about this very boring Bulls team that's been on the court so far this season. So, and at 10 o'clock, we'll be doing our NFL Around the League segment. And then probably around 10:20, I'm thinking this Bears game will be over. And we'll have our bootleg post-game version of that. So stay tuned for all of that. Like I said, phone number 773-591-1690. You can listen online at WVON.com. iHeartRadio, the icon is there. Click on it and get crystal clear sound. You can also follow the show on Twitter at
Stats Stilettos.
And you can like our Facebook page as well. Now, the big news, of course, like I said, with the Bears game, obviously everybody knows they're losing 10-3 at the half right now. A bunch of turnovers, bad weather, all that. We'll talk about all that later in the game as we try not to get lost in watching.
With all that said, they only go into halftime.
Yeah. Well, so we're like James Brown and those guys right now.
Right.
I prefer to be Tony Dungy. I prefer to be Tony Dungy. I'm going to see how dry I can possibly be during halftime right now.
Well, Bill Cowher, who's drier, though? He or Bill Cowher? I think Cowher's a little dry himself, myself personally. I don't know. It's a toss-up.
He's definitely not the most exciting person, but yeah.
All right, so anybody have any halftime analysis so far of the Bears game?
Arian Foster is being Arian Foster. There's no doubt that he was going to come into this game, and you would expect for him to get the yardage he was going to get. He already had 17 rushes, 85 yards, 4 receptions for 13 yards, and he's got the touchdown, which really shouldn't have even happened if the Bears had been on their job. He's one of those players you never leave unattended at any moment, period. That's just the bottom line. So to me, that was just poor management. But the Bears, think about it this way. It isn't that Texas is playing exceptional. The Bears already had 4 turnovers in this game. They're playing against themselves. So they need to get far more efficient. They're the ones that create, turnovers and get takeaways. They need to refocus that and come out at halftime and get their mind right.
Speaking of turnovers, it's been the revenge of Danielle Manning. Forced fumble, one of the first plays of the game, and he has a pick. So he's been a big part of that.
You don't want to pay me? That's cool.
He's using all those skill sets he learned while he was a Bear. Yeah. He's now employed them with Texas.
And high-fiving Urlacher, which that
was that's right.
Wait, we're not team. Okay.
This is not going to be a high-scoring game. My prediction was the Bears would win this and it'd be a game like 24-21. I think it could literally come down to a field goal. Considering the weather, hopefully it won't get windy outside. I just don't see this is going to be probably a big passing game. It's going to be probably a run game. And the thing that's going to be interesting to watch coming into this game is that the Texans are the number 1 red zone offense against the Bears, who are the number 1 red zone defense. And up until that touchdown they gave up to Arian Foster, they had been pretty efficient.
Yeah, well, a lot of that going on. A lot of turnovers, like we were saying. Cutler kind of has to ease up. He's kind of forcing it. He's kind of feeding into that whole thing where everybody was saying he's forcing the ball to Brandon Marshall. He's doing that a little bit too much tonight.
Right. And then at the same time, a lot of the first downs are because of Cutler. He's running.
Yeah, he has to.
True.
He is running, and he's getting the first down and probably in his head saying, oh, okay, seriously. I'm tired of running.
It's the consistent issue I talk about they have every week. They have all these offensive weapons, but no one seems to understand exactly how to use them. This could be the deficiency. I think you talked about Mike Tice last week probably not being the best coach. Either you or Dee said that. And I'm not going to disagree with that. But between the fact that you have a running game that's good and established. Forte can get you obviously as many rushing yards as a receiving, but you don't need him to do that. You've got Marshall. You've got Bennett. Kellen Davis needs to figure out how to hold on to the ball. I'm not sure what his problem was tonight, but you finally get to touch a ball. I know as a tight end we don't use them frequently enough, but hold on to the ball.
Lovie Smith needs to tell him where the bench is. That's what needs to happen.
Well,
Kellen Davis just.
But that's what happens when you're not integrated into the offense as frequently as everybody else is. But spread the ball out because they can do that. It's like you don't have to go to Brandon Marshall because, they're using Devin Hester a little bit. He's not just a decoy tonight. It's just they got to find some balance. I think they're just a little worked up because this is a big game for them.
Though, I think next week's game is bigger because, this is a big game, a big matchup, national TV and all that. But, Houston, they're in the other conference. So while the Bears really lose nothing if they lose this game, and, if you really look at it, it won't be like a tiebreaker counting against them if they finish tied with anybody in the NFC. It's big, but it's not nearly as big as next week's game is.
Agreeable.
I think.
But a win is a win, especially wins
no
against good teams.
Yeah.
You need to get wins against good teams because that's what you're going to be facing when you get into the playoffs. So.
All right, well, like I said, that's our pseudo halftime show there. We'll be back after this. No, I'm just kidding. The big news this past week, in sports, I think anyway, is Mike Brown getting canned. I mean, it's not a surprise or anything, but it's obviously big news. And the candidates, we talked about this last week on the show, are pretty much the people who we named, Mike D'Antoni and Phil Jackson.
Look, I'm going to tell you what really happened. You better believe they already had this conversation with Phil a minute ago because, he's dating the boss's daughter. So they lay in bed one night.
Pillow talk.
Pillow talk. She's like, Phil, I know you're retired, but we need you to come back. We finally got a team assembled that you can really coach. Mike Brown cannot pull this off. Baby, come on, think about it. What can I do to change your mind?
You know what?
Yeah, and that's where the story stops.
I was just going
for
to
the radio anyway.
I was just going to say, man, we probably can pretty much say anything we wanted, and I almost wanted to expound on what you were saying. But
yeah.
I mean, that's a strong. Not to be funny, though. That's a strong influence when obviously you have that connection to the owner's daughter. I mean, they've been dating for a while, so if anybody can persuade him into this is a team you want to coach, this is like your Shaq and Kobe. You've got your Dwight and Kobe type situation. It doesn't get any better than this. There's no better conversation. So
I think Phil is done. I must be one of the only people that thinks.
No, I absolutely agree. When his last season, when they just started falling apart on the court and they were fighting and it was just way too much, and I said then, Phil should have went out on top. You should have never came back. So I feel like people have forgotten that, and we just remember the good Phil.
Yeah.
Which is great, but now you're coming back again. I need you to stay retired.
To a different team, though. To a different team that will probably have far better discipline.
Well, I understand that. I just feel like at what point do you I need you to recognize who you are. You're a legend. Retire. Go out on top. Don't let the boss's daughter blackmail you or whatever else happened behind closed doors these days. Whatever else happened behind closed doors.
Bedroom
and enjoy your retirement.
Normally, around 10:40, we'd be having our tip of the week, but tonight we're going to have that right now. So let's hear it.
Ladies, it's time for the Sports Chick tip of the week.
All right. Tonight's Sports Chick tip of the week is a little bit emotional.
I'm so sad. I'm going to cry. I already know what it is.
First of all, Stats and Stilettos has been on the air for a year. Happy anniversary to everyone. Yes. Whether you are new with us or been here since day one when we were fumbling around on the air.
We had Bob Kendrick from the Negro League Museum on. Bob,
we still fumble around.
And sometimes we still fumble around.
Remember that time when you were at the Negro League Museum? That was great.
That was fun. But yeah, tonight's Sports Chick tip of the week is not really a tip. It's more like a, hey guys, I'll see you later. See you around. This will be my last show in studio. From now on, I will be contributing Sports Chicks tip of the week and calling in, but it won't be on a consistent every Sunday basis. I am moving from my hometown of Chicago, Illinois, to the great state of Pennsylvania. But don't worry, I will not become an Eagles fan or a Steelers fan or a 76ers fan.
I know somebody in that household would not even allow you to become a Steelers fan.
No, absolutely not. No hashtag needed. Actually was at the Saints game today, so congratulations to them. Good win. We'll get to that later. But yeah, that is my announcement. We've been kind of sitting on that for a little while now, trying to figure out how we were going to move forward and stay in the mix. But things will sound slightly different from now on. But, Sports Chicks Tip of the Weeks may pop up on Facebook or something if I'm not calling in. So I know how much you guys love me. Farouk has already...
I spilled my heart in an email to her the other night. It wasn't even like a drunk email or nothing like that. I was crying in email form.
He was drunk typing.
I was crying in email form. I was I'm very, very, very sad, but I'm happy for you all at once. And I'm like, man.
Yes, it's a new adventure, and hey, you never know. There's some considerations to see if we can't just expand Stats and Stilettos, and I sit in a studio in Pennsylvania and we broadcast, and that's how you slowly take over the world. Woo, ha, ha, ha.
Sounds like Pinky the Brain.
Exactly. One station at a time.
But yeah, this is like I was saying, this is not a happy night as far as it goes, but it's congratulatory. So congratulations, you know what I'm saying? Good luck in your travels. Be safe. You're going to be out there.
Yes, I am.
Driving in the weather.
It has been beautiful weather today in Chicago. My last weekend in Chicago, and this is how it has gone. Today, I got up and had brunch with family. Then I got on my cousin's motorcycle and rode Lakeshore Drive because it was 70 degrees outside.
It was beautiful.
Then it started raining. When I leave tomorrow morning, it will be snowing. Welcome to Chicago.
You get Chicago weather right before you leave.
Right, yeah, you get the whole gamut right
How
there.
about for people who don't know, why don't you tell them kind of the inception of Stats and Stilettos? Because some people might be new listeners and think, awesome name, but tell them like where it came from, because there'll be more of you coming down the pipeline specifically.
There absolutely will be. Stats and Stilettos is a child that I came up with literally in the middle of the night, woke up and wrote down the title. Because I've been writing a book for the past year under the same name, looking for an illustrator. So if you're an illustrator out there, I need one for the book. Ran into Farouk actually in the studio while he was doing Kendall's show. We got to talking about sports. He mentioned that he, was kind of interested in doing a sports radio show. I said, hey, guess what? You need a female. And he was like, what? I was like, yeah. You need a female co-host. It's different. So he said, I said to him, if I write the proposal, will you submit it? And he said, yeah. So I wrote it. He submitted it. They called us in. And literally 2 weeks later, we were on there. And when we first started, they said, we're going to give you guys a couple weeks to see how it goes. Mm-hmm. Here we are 1 year later.
So obviously somebody likes us out there.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, there will be more coming down the pipeline, but it's not goodbye. It's just, hey y'all, see you later.
Yeah.
See you when I come back to get my hair done.
College football thoughts. Oregon is the new number 1. And Notre Dame, you know what? I was talking with D earlier before the show. There's no way in the world, as long as both Oregon and Notre Dame went out, Kansas State is done. Their season is over. If both Oregon and Notre Dame went out, they might as well just stop playing because there's no way nobody's going to pick. The computers will do something that makes Notre Dame get a higher score than
just
Kansas
to see it
State.
happen.
Yeah, because that the type of ratings that would get?
A lot.
Oregon and Notre Dame?
But the Notre Dame coach kind of went on when they won the game against Boston College. And he was pretty much like kind of prefacing it like if they don't, like say they go undefeated and they're not number 1, it's kind of like how the current BCS system is working against them. He's like, we might just have to wait a couple of years before having a season like this works to your advantage.
That's not going to happen because they have USC the last game.
I'm just saying, but he was saying, given their current season, how well they've been playing, that this current BCS, system doesn't work for them. But the new system coming up, where it's more of a playoff system based on strength of schedule and wins and losses, would make a difference for them this season.
I think Kansas State is going to be crying that song because it's going to happen if Notre Dame.
I'm just going to say this.
It's going to happen. They're going to be in the national title
The
game.
universe would expand one extra galaxy if Notre Dame is in like the national title game, because that's just a school.
Did you say expand?
Yes, I'm serious.
Galaxy.
Yes, one more galaxy will pop up.
Well, we have 2 suns.
No, not us. I'm just saying another galaxy somewhere else. It'll expand and one will be created because there are people who love Notre Dame. It's like they're like the Cubs. Not to be mean, I'm not saying that to take a dig. Yes, I am. I can do it because you're leaving. So. I can go ahead and get these in because we're both Sox people, so I won't have a Cub person to kind of pick on.
I'm not a Cubs person.
The Cubs will be non-existent.
Right.
Well, they still are kind of.
When the Cubs make it to the World Series, something magical will happen in the world. I don't know what it's going to be.
I
But
think that fairies will appear.
seriously, it's just something interesting will happen. But that's how Notre Dame is. They have that kind of that love affair with that team. So if they could be in a national title game, he missed that.
He missed.
Robbie was good as
It's not always so golden.
He was good as rose gold on that one. So gold on the roll.
Gold plated.
Yeah, gold.
He was gold-plated on that kick.
Gold plated, but yeah, this Oregon Notre Dame thing, I want it to happen because it'll be something different. It's not SEC related at all. Thank God for that. I was so glad to see Texas A&M hold on to that lead.
Damn, I was like, wow. I cannot believe that Texas A&M pulled that one off. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it was very impressive. Very impressive.
That's right, let's go. It's time for Around the League on Stats and Stilettos. I am Damon Spruiel, your moderator. Follow me at Demons1, Demonze. We got Ty in the building for the last time. Farouk, Bashir, and Maya Akai. Let's go ahead and hop into these games, y'all. First game, Minnesota 34, Detroit 24. Christian Ponder, 24 for 32, 221 yards for 2 touchdowns. Adrian Peterson, man, what surgery? That's all you got to say. 171 yards, 1 touchdown. And Matthew Stafford, 28 for 42, 329 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. And Calvin Johnson, somebody's boo, 207 yards, 1 touchdown.
Right.
But he did have 1 fumble, Maya. So
Stuff
Minnesota, yes, stuff happens. Stuff happens. But Minnesota, without Percy Harvin, able to step up and get a big win in the division.
Yeah, Christian Ponder, he played better, so they won.
He did.
24 for 32 today, so he had a better game, really, I think is what it came down to. And like Christy was saying during the interview we had with her, Peterson.
What surgery?
Right, what surgery?
Yeah, what surgery?
He looks great now.
To me, this was one of those games where you didn't know who was actually going to win before the game started. Because to me, they're two teams that could play well, but Detroit's on a spiral, and it's just not really getting better. And I told you what the jinx is last week. Jim Schwartz needs to put on the shirts that show his nipples. Because ever since he stopped wearing the nipple shirts, okay, I know you think I'm joking. Last season.
No, I'm laughing because I know you're serious.
Every shirt he had on, it was so tight you could see them. All of a sudden now his shirts aren't as tight and they're not winning. That's a jinx. What's that commercial? Is it like Miller Lite has a commercial like it only is only strange if it doesn't work?
Oh yeah, right.
I'm just saying he needs to put on the tight nipple shirt and they'll probably start winning.
Well,
You hear that, Schwartz?
You said jinx though, and Calvin Johnson, I believe, was on the cover of Madden.
Yeah.
Even though he had a big game today, and he's played well the last 2 weeks, but he's been having a very subpar year. I mean, I've been poking at him, calling him star screen and stuff, but
But he really should knock on wood because that jinx is usually an injury.
Yeah, an injury jinx.
That you're out for the season.
And actually, he displayed a little bit of frustration in this game that you generally have not seen him do in previous games. For this to be the best game he's had in a while, he was on the sideline, really the coverage he was getting, the double teams. He was not happy with a lot of things. So it's just they seem to be on a spiral. And I honestly got to say, I think a little bit of this is Matthew Stafford. He's still underthrowing a little bit or overthrowing people. And I'm not sure what's going on with him or why that's happening, if it's the routes are not being completed properly or whatever the case may be. But I think the blame for their losses can be spread out. The running game is not consistent. Calvin Johnson hasn't stepped up. Nate Burleson being out is a big deal for them as well.
I think
his absence, I'm not saying Pettigrew does, he's okay. But Burleson was more than just, as people say, the backup dancers was the big joke about that. I think they miss him. If they would have had him in this game, I think it could have been a different outcome.
it's a reason why I'm about to ask this, but who would you guys rather have, Matthew Stafford or Cam Newton? 2 number 1 picks.
Matthew Stafford. I'm gonna answer that real quick.
Yeah, I'm confused why you even
But
asked
there-
that
You know
question.
what? No, I'm going to go against that. I think
Go
Cam
ahead.
Newton, because I think he has a higher ceiling of talent.
There's a reason why
I
I'm
don't know if I
asking
agree with
this.
that.
And
Based on what?
Matthew Stafford's shoulders are done. 2 shoulders. I mean, he's still throwing the ball, yeah, but it could be the fact what you just said, overthrowing something. I don't know. His shoulders have not been good. And he's been very injury prone. You haven't seen that with Cam just yet.
Right, because
Reason-
he's not throwing the ball nowhere.
The reason I asked is, I think it was about a week or so
Touche.
ago when Cam Newton was really getting heavily criticized. I saw Bomani Jones on Twitter saying that nobody goes after Matthew Stafford was in one of his slumps, one of those 4 pick games he just threw, and he was kind of saying that they're both number 1 picks, But Stafford doesn't get near the criticism for his team's losses that Cam
does.
And I thought about it, I'm like, rather interesting because Stafford does throw a lot. He turns the ball over a lot, and he's actually way more injury prone than Cam.
Okay, he's this season he's been okay with the injuries. I mean, he had a little tweak earlier, but he came back. I mean, so I know last season is the thing that really kind of throws this season in a tailspin for the Lions. They did so well last year that this performance this year seems like such a step back for them, and it is. But I don't think it's just 100% his fault. The running game,
no, it's not.
The running game is just not. Javette Best is not on the field. It's just not there. They're relying too much on the pass, and I think there's just issues going on, and not to mention they've had quite a few injuries. So I think you can spread the blame out a little bit across the board for that team.
Okay, all right. Next game, I would be wrong not to do this, but I have to do this because our lovely host is leaving us. New Orleans 31, Atlanta 27. Stomp those dirty birds out.
Yes,
Drew Brees.
They deep fried them dirty birds.
Yes, they did. 21 for 32 for Drew
Eating
Brees.
them now, I think.
298 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Jimmy Graham got down, 146 yards, receiving 2 touchdowns. Matthew Ryan, well, I'm calling him Matthew. Matt Ryan, 34-52.
Because the performance today.
I guess because they lost your name.
You
Now
calling
it's
him by
Matthew.
his whole name.
Right. Call you
when
Matthew
they get in
now.
trouble.
34 for 52, 411 yards, 3 touchdowns and interception. Tony Gonzalez, 122 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ty, your boys, you told me to slow down last week, but are you believing yet? I think what are they now? 4-5?
Yeah, 4-5, and they beat an undefeated Atlanta Falcons.
In Atlanta.
No, they were in New Orleans.
Oh, they was in New Orleans. I'm sorry, New Orleans.
And they're on a streak beating Atlanta right now. So, just want to say, first of all, Jimmy Graham, I love him because he's racially ambiguous and he just
and he's a redhead.
When you look at Jimmy Graham, you have no idea what he is. If he said, I'm Indian, you'd go, okay. If he said, I'm black, you say, all right. He can pretty much say anything.
Ambiguous.
He is. He
I
really,
love
really
that.
is. And he's amazing. I mean, the game was scary. I'm not even gonna make it sound like there weren't moments where I was a little worried, especially towards the end of the game. But they pulled it out. I don't know if I say I'm sold on them right now. But I mean, they're playing better, but the defense still whomps.
Yeah.
Okay, they're 4-5. Detroit is 4-5. I think with the NFC, I mean, we'll get to all these other games. I think that I'll say 5 of the spots for the playoffs are pretty well set. I think the Giants, what we all agree, are probably in.
Yeah.
Green Bay, probably in. The Bears, anybody disagree so far? That's 3.
No.
No.
So you're saying the Packers going to get a wild card?
Yeah, probably. Atlanta, they're in, so that makes 4. San Francisco. So who's going to be that 6th team? Is it going to be New Orleans? Is it going to be somebody like Detroit? They're both 4-5. Which one of those 4-5 teams? Dallas.
How about Seattle?
Seattle possibly. They're very good still, too.
They had a good game.
I mean,
That's scary. You just said they're very good. That's kind of awkward.
But compared to these other teams, I mean,
That's awkward.
so that's kind of safe to say almost that all 6 teams are pretty much etched in stone. I mean, somebody could slip,
Right.
but I guess the long-winded way is what I'm asking. Which one of these 4 and 5 teams are going to sneak up on? Is it going to be the Saints?
I mean, yeah, I feel, and I'm not saying this because I'm a Saints fan, but I do feel like there is a little bit more consistency with them. They know that their defense is what it is, and they work around that. So I feel like the offense, they come together, they do what they need to do, and the defense does just enough not to get completely booed off the field.
They did good against Philly the other night, though. Monday night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would put my money there, and again, not because no hashtag needed has brainwashed me, but I really honestly see them as a more as improving throughout the season and getting to that point and saying, okay, what do we need to do to make this work?
The NFL, their website, they do this really fun a playoff picture projection that they start come maybe week 2 or 3 and they start matching up things. And right now how the playoff picture potentially could look is that the Bears obviously would be winning their division at 7-1 as it stands right now. They would have to play the highest winning seed from the NFC wildcard round. The Falcons obviously on the other flip side have the other seeded position. Now, wild card matchups right now as it stands, it'd be the Packers versus the Giants, Seattle versus the 49ers. That's a snapshot.
Wow.
If the season ended today, that's what the NFC playoff picture currently looks like. Now, in the hunt, standing like they could maybe get back in the picture is the Vikings at 6-4, the Buccaneers, and then the Cowboys. And this picture rotates every single week. So if you happen to love this kind of stuff, if you log into NFL.com and just go to the stats part of it and go to the playoff picture, it just lays this out nicely. So that's kind of right now. If the season ended right now and the playoffs are about to happen, this is how it would all unfold. Now, you go to the AFC, on the flip side, the Texans obviously got their division locked up. They would play the lowest seed from the AFC wildcard round. And then the Ravens have they're locked up. They play the highest seed. Right now, that AFC picture would be the Steelers versus the Patriots would be that seeded team. The Colts versus the Broncos. I love that. Wow. Talk about storyline. That is so storyline right there. And then in the hunt, you still got the Chargers, the Dolphins, the Bengals. This is something that is so fun to watch every single week, how this picture just kind of changes.
That game would be great if it was in Indianapolis.
I would think about trying to go.
Yeah.
So I could cheer Peyton, though.
That's the NFL right there. It's parody. That's why everybody loves
the NFL. But that's
a
fluke. But it's a fluke that Peyton's playing for the Broncos. His former team is the Colts. It's just a fluke that it's lined up like that by records. Because who would have thought that right now the Colts would be 6-3?
2 horses.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And that stands that the Broncos step on horseshoes. I'm just saying. Because that's what the Colt thing is, the horseshoe.
So we see where my allegiance is going to.
Look, you know I ride or die
I
with
know.
Peyton.
Hey, I love Peyton too.
Don't play.
I love Peyton too. You know what? Good segue. Denver, 36, Carolina, 14. Peyton Manning, 27 for 38, 301 yards with 1 touchdown. Trenton Holiday, kickoff return for a touchdown. He's been doing his thing of late too. Cam Newton, 21 for 36, 241 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The former Bear, Greg Olsen, 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. We could still use Greg Olsen here in Chicago.
Use him tonight.
Man, could we ever?
We could have used it when we had him, but Martz made everyone believe he wasn't a good fit because he wasn't a good blocking tight end, and that's what he wanted. He was never a bad tight end in Chicago. He just couldn't block for squat, and that didn't work well with Mike Martz. That's the bottom line. So they dished off a serious draft pick they took under the guidance of Mike Martz, who's not even here anymore. So
not that it would have made any difference. But
he could catch the ball.
He could score touchdowns.
He could score. He could catch the ball.
He could catch the ball.
Not that was what made any difference in the game, but I would have loved to see when they reviewed if Holiday went out of bounds on his punt return, if they would have took the touchdown from him for throwing that ball.
Yes.
Releasing that ball before he went over the goal line. I'm tired of all the – I'm going to sound like a bitter old man right now, but I'm tired of all the early celebrations or celebrations for nothing. When you've tackled somebody for a 2-yard gain and you're getting up thumping you. I'm tired of that. Hold the ball, go in the end zone, then do whatever you want after that. But get in the end zone first.
This is the new NFL. I'm going to high step, running down to the end zone before I even get there.
Right.
Until somebody drops the ball or ends up getting tackled because they don't realize it's coming, they won't knock it off. This is the new NFL. You won't let me spike the ball and truly celebrate in the end zone like I really want to, so I'm going to make sure I'm celebrating on the way there.
Or celebrating in the end zone to a certain extent, because I have to admit that when Cam Newton came out from the tunnel today, he did this like Superman rip his shirt off thing. And then the Denver Broncos, every time they scored a touchdown, proceeded to pull the shirt apart and then put it back together. Like, see, don't, you're not Superman.
But what they didn't realize that he was representing Bizarro Superman is what that was.
Okay. I found it so hilarious.
But I think it's funny they were mocking him because he was stupid for doing it. Yeah. You've done nothing but being criticized. So why are you doing anything over the top to draw more criticism
You're
to
still
yourself?
looking for suggestions in a suggestion box, but you want to come out and pretend like you're Superman.
Right.
Like you have brought this team so far when you have not.
The humbling of Cam Newton continues. It's not going as effectively as it needs to go, apparently, if he's still doing that.
No. Yeah, something's definitely not sinking in. And here's a team, Farouk, I think you forgot about. Tampa Bay, 34. San Diego, 24. Josh Freeman, 14 for 20, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns. Doug Martin didn't go for 3,000 yards this game. Only went for 68. Phillip Rivers, 29 for 37, 337 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And let me see if I'm saying this right. Dan Rio Alexander, 134 yards and 1 touchdown. I hope I got that right. What did I say? Whatever.
It's Venereal.
Whatever.
Venereal?
He had a very good game. But Tampa Bay, I believe there have to be about 4 and 5 or maybe.
They're 5 and 4.
5 and 4.
And I kind of left them out, but I think I didn't forget about them. It's just I don't think they're that good.
They're not. They're not that good. This is one of those teams that's very spotty. 1 week they'll put together performance and you're impressed. I mean, Josh Freeman, to me, he's another one of those quarterbacks that probably goes under the radar and doesn't get criticized the way that, for instance, look how long he's been playing and how he plays, and no one really kind of throws him under the bus the way they do actually throw Cam under the bus.
Yeah.
If you think about it. So it isn't just Matthew Stafford that kind of gets, and it could be because these are low-key players that don't really say much and they kind of behave themselves and they don't act like I'm the best thing since sliced bread. I think that's part of what draws people to Cam is his personality. I think that's part of the issue. So I've long since said I don't think that Josh Freeman is the future franchise quarterback for Tampa Bay. I'm not convinced. I'm not. So they're spotty.
He's been playing well lately, though. I'll give him his props. I agree with you, but the last few games he's been putting up some nice
Lately,
numbers.
people are so dangerous.
But that's because Doug Martin's been
That's like
playing
dating
ball
on
great, too.
potential. He potentially could be something.
He could
or he
be.
could potentially be a bust. It's that 50-50 split.
He could be a serial killer. He could be a
Right.
doctor.
That's right. He could be the Easter Bunny.
Never know. But with Doug Martin running the ball so well, now he's able to not just chuck the ball around, just throwing it to Vincent Jackson all the time. You have that balance. So I think that's why Tampa Bay, they're in the hunt. Are they going to do anything? Probably not.
Yeah.
But at least they're in the hunt, and you can actually give them some kind of kudos.
And Phillip Rivers, just good enough to get you beat. We'll be talking about another quarterback like that, I'm sure, soon.
I've said it. I said all the time about Phillip Rivers. He talks a lot, but I don't think he backs up what he says. I just don't think he's that good. I don't. I'm sorry.
And he used to chirp so much to Jay Cutler.
He did.
Oh,
They used to
man,
jaw all
they
the time.
hated each other when he was in Denver.
I don't know if it's past tense.
I'm sure. Well,
Yeah, there you
You're
go.
right.
Yeah.
No, you could be. I mean, but the Bears haven't played the Chargers in a while. I don't think so. You never know what the history, what that is right there. We got enough for one more, or good?
Yeah, let's take a break, but we're coming back with more of this, so stay tuned.
And welcome back to Stats and Stilettos with your hosts, Maya Akai, Farouk Bashir, and Ty Eileen. I am Damon Spruiel, moderator for Around the League. Let's go ahead and hop back into these games. Let's go to one that's a game that was very interesting and something that's very rare. A tie. San Francisco 24, St. Louis 24. Sam Bradford 26 for 39, 275 yards and 2 touchdowns. Steven Jackson busting out his first 100-yard game, 101 with 1 touchdown. Alex Smith was knocked out the game with a concussion, as
Scrambled.
Maya said, scrambled
Soft
eggs.
scrambled.
Soft scrambled. So he went 7 for 8, 72 yards, but did have 1 touchdown. But his backup came in, Colin.
Kaepernick.
There you go. 11, 17, 117 yards. And Frank Gore did his thing with 97 yards and 1 touchdown. Farouk, a tie.
St. Louis, they seem like they have a lot of talent on that team. They don't play very smart, it looks like.
Lot of
A lot
penalties.
of dumb mistakes,
Yes.
particularly with that 53-yard field goal by the guy they're referring to as Young Jeezy, Greg Zerline.
Yeah, what's the story with that? I heard that.
Greg Zerline,
Oh, okay.
Young Jeezy. Jeezy. See that?
No.
I'm not good
G,
with, I'm not
Greg,
good with the,
Zerline, Z, Young,
the urban
G,
talk.
Z.
Oh, the letters.
I didn't catch that. Like I said, I'm not good with the urban talk.
Late nights. Sleepy.
Who came up with that one?
Right.
I know. Yeah, you came up with that?
No, that's real. That's his nickname on the team.
Yeah.
Jeezy.
The announcer said
Young
it.
Jeezy,
Chris
yeah.
Myers and the other dude,
Yeah.
Tim Ryan, I think it was.
Calling him Young Jeezy?
Yes.
Yes.
I can't.
Yes, that's what they
Like
call
Maya
him.
said, this is the new
His
NFL.
teammates call him that. That's one of his nicknames.
I get
So,
your
Yeah.
teammates calling you that, but the announcers?
yeah, they call him
Do they even know who Young Jeezy is?
I'm sure they don't.
But yeah, he nailed a 53-yarder, and I was sitting with my son when they had the penalty. I'm like, I guarantee he's gonna miss it.
Yeah.
He's like, all he has to do is try hard, Dad. I'm like, I guarantee he's gonna miss
Oh.
this field.
From the mouths of babes.
Oh,
See?
Right.
Yes.
Oh,
But-
ye of little faith.
But from the mouths of an old man, he knew the truth, and he went ahead and missed that 58-yarder right after that. That's what I was saying. So,
There's Lovie Smith starting to look like a choke artist.
but yeah, a tie, rare. I was thinking like, man, San Francisco, please win this game. I don't need you mad next week when the Bears come into town. But they'll
They're gonna
probably
be mad. They're gonna be
anyway.
But they
Yeah.
still
They
need
are
to be
going to be
mad
mad.
because
Yeah,
they
they're gonna be mad.
tied to a St. Louis Rams
That's
team
inferior
that's
to them.
Well,
3-5.
True.
And, during the game, I honestly thought that the Rams were going to pull it off for the simple fact that Steven Jackson is a beast.
He
He's
was
just
getting
not
down.
showing up, though. This is week 10. Where are you
Streaky.
been?
But
Him and Chris Johnson.
today, I mean, to watch him basically run down the field with like 10 people on his back, I mean, come on now. I don't understand how it is that the Maya loves the 49ers.
I do.
and they come into this game and you tie.
I say this: if Alex Smith wasn't scrambled and on the field, seriously, they probably would have won the game. I mean, I'm not saying Kaepernick, he's decent, but this gets back to when you put young quarterbacks in that aren't getting the reps with the first team. You saw it with the Eagles today.
Yes.
They show some promise, but they're just not efficient enough. I say if you had a healthy Alex Smith in the game, 49ers would have won it. So the fact that they got a tie, which is really interesting.
The first one since 2008. The Eagles, that's when Donovan McNabb didn't
Forgot the
realize
rules, yeah.
that you could have a tie.
And of course, they threw him on the bus. This
Yeah.
is when Don McNabb forgot the rules.
So I'm like, it could be worse because it could be a loss.
Yeah, I guess.
That's a horrible way to look at it.
The tie in football, very rare.
I'm just saying, but at least it's a tie opposed to a loss.
That's going to play against
It's a
them, though, in the
tie.
That's what I was
It
gonna
is,
ask.
because
That's
the
what
a 49ers team that everybody has been so very excited about ties the St. Louis Rams.
But you tie without your starting quarterback. You didn't get a tie with him in the game, which means you put in a player that's just not as seasoned. I mean, Colin Kaepernick has actually looked good in the preseason. He's had a couple reps during the regular season, but not enough to be efficient.
So basically, you take Mr. Scrambled Eggs out of the picture, and they're just a decent team.
And Alex
If you
Smith
don't-
isn't
talk about-
that
okay.
good, though. We're not
Well,
talking
Exactly. We ain't
Well-
talking about, Peyton Manning. It's Alex Smith.
You are talking about someone who takes all the reps with the first team. He knows the offense. He has a balance with the offense. You could say the same thing about this Bears game right now. Not that Jay Cutler was playing great, but having Jason Campbell in the game, there is nothing symbiotic about the balance he has with these players. He doesn't take the first reps. So there's nothing balanced for him.
I have something you can balance it. Just run the ball.
Yeah, it is.
But, okay, once again, the choke artist is going to show up tonight. I guarantee.
That big matchup everybody's looking forward to next week could be Colin Kaepernick against Jason Campbell.
Yes. 'cause
And you
the
know what's
rule is you
bad
have
about
to be
this
out,
game
right?
with 2 minutes left on the board, 13-6. The Bears have literally played against themselves. The Bears defense has kept them in the game. Think about it, 13 points. When was the last time that I probably shouldn't say this because watch them come on the field and score, but the Texans have not technically outplayed the Bears. The Bears have failed to show up to play. And somebody's shaking his head. What? Anyways, stuff like this is annoying.
Okay.
All right. Next game. Dallas 38, Philadelphia 23.
Oh man.
Tony Romo, 19 for 26, 29
Romo.
yards, 2 touchdowns. Dez Bryant, 87 yards with 1 touchdown. Nick Foles, 22 for 32, 219 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. As Maya alluded to, Michael Vick went out with a concussion. And Jerry Maclin had 93 yards with 1 touchdown. Another quarterback with
Scrambled.
concussion.
And
And it could be the fact that these guys don't slide.
Look, let me just say this.
Jay Cutler need to learn how to slide.
When I
Michael Vick
watch
too.
the Eagles, whose O-line is absolutely atrocious, under the fact they've had a lot of injuries and they've lost like their center, their left guard, they've had a lot of issues in that O-line. When I watch how poorly they play, I look at this is exactly how it looked for Jay Cutler last year. It was that bad
Yeah.
for him too. It does tell me at least how much improved the Bears O-line has. It's a small stride, but it is better.
You took one step, baby.
They took one step forward because they looked like that last year. And I'm like, did you know me? I'm not a big Michael Vick fan. So when they were scrambling his eggs, I was like,
But Michael kind of did it to himself with that face forward slide.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. It's like they need to work on that. But
Learn how to slide.
This was the battle of the
3-5 teams.
3 and 5
Yep.
selling dreams game. So now Dallas is 4 and 5, so they've been sold a dream that they can contend still. Philly is done. But they might as well let Foles play the rest of the year.
Yeah, pretty much. The question is, are they going to let Andy Reid coach out the remaining season? Are they going to move their defensive coordinator into that role who could potentially be a candidate, potentially, to see how well he does? But his time is up. Matter of fact, I'm just thinking maybe he should just go ahead and just resign.
No, he's not going to quit.
I would. I mean, he's got a lot. Think about this man.
No guy with that kind of competition is going to
But my
quit.
thing is he really in the game? His son committed suicide. He's got a lot of stuff on his mind besides just this. 14 seasons. It just might be time to hang it up. And if they have another coach that they would like to entertain that conversation with, maybe he should just resign. It's better than being fired.
It is better than being fired, and it's definitely in the pipeline.
Everybody
They may be at the table right now.
I don't know. I would rather somebody throw
I
me
know.
out than me just walking out.
over Philly cheesesteak.
They may announce it tomorrow morning. Like, it may be happening right now as we speak.
Probably so.
I mean,
Probably
it's just,
is.
it was already on the table. But now, like, everything, like the table is set. Everybody's sitting there that needs to have the conversation. He needs to resign.
It
All
just
right.
isn't working.
What else we got?
All right. Last game, guess we can break down because everything else wasn't blah. Cincinnati 31, New York Giants 13. Andy Dalton, 21 for 30, 199 yards with 4 touchdowns. A.J. Green went for 85 yards with 1 touchdown. Eli Manning, 29 for 46, 215 yards and 2 interceptions. And Andre Brown had one of the lone touchdowns for the Giants at 57 yards. So New York Giants is one of those teams that kind of fly under the radar and pop up and they win. But Cincinnati came out and stopped that real quick.
The one thing that Cincinnati said going to that game is they believe that the Giants secondary was suspect, and they exploited it.
They are suspect.
And they exploited it all day long. I mean, they was just eating them up in the secondary.
Well, Cincinnati, I've been getting on them the last year or so since this new regime of Andy Dalton and A.J. Green has came in. I'm saying they haven't been able to beat a good team, and today they beat a good team. I mean, they beat the defending Super Bowl winners.
Yeah.
Team that was 6-3, leading their division, and they beat them down. So I'm going to give Cincinnati props in this game.
They won. Hey, it was a good win.
They beat them rather easily.
Yeah, 31-13.
Yeah, I'm not a big Bengals fan.
It wasn't even like a win. It was like a beatdown.
It was a beat down in Cincinnati. But, I have this theory with Eli Manning right now. When Peyton and the Denver Broncos weren't winning and they were winning, he was on top of the world. Yay, woohoo. Now people are saying Peyton Manning should be MVP because he's on this incline and he's bringing the team back from the dust. Now Eli Manning can't play.
And just to wrap up around the league, Baltimore 55, Oakland 20.
55.
50. That was a Oregon Duck score right there.
Yeah.
New England 37, Buffalo 31, Tennessee 37.
They almost lost that game.
Yeah, they did.
That was an entertaining game, but another high-scoring game for New England against Buffalo.
Buffalo always plays them tough.
Yep.
Tennessee 37, Miami 3.
Nice bounce back for the Titans after getting destroyed last week by the Bears.
Right. Seattle 28, New York Jets 7. Last Thursday we had Indianapolis beat Jacksonville 27-10, and last Monday we had New Orleans beat Philadelphia 28-13, and that is around the league.
So, what's the best sports show in radio?
Well, can you repeat?
No,
I don't get the question.
I said, what's the best sports show in radio?
I don't know. I really don't know.
It's Stats and Stilettos, of course.
Welcome back to Stats and Stilettos. I am Ty Eileen, sitting here with Maya Kai and Farouk Basir. My last night in studio. Heated conversations happening before we went off the air. Seemed like Farouk was getting a little upset. Had to cut him off before his head exploded talking about the Bears. But in Maya, there's certain things she does not want to hear Lovie Smith say that he's probably going to say. He's going to say it.
That we weren't prepared.
Yeah.
I know it's coming.
And then perhaps, there'll be, there was weather.
That.
We're taking weather into consideration.
And it's just, it's annoying.
Give us your thoughts on Twitter at Stats Stilettos, Facebook page, phone number here at the station, 773-591-1690. The Bears with a tough home loss tonight in front of the whole nation to see. They've been getting all this big pub, 7-1, then they go on national TV and lay an egg. But how much of it do you think was not having Cutler for that second half? Do you think he would have been able to turn it around? He's been a second half quarterback this year. So he's put up some of his biggest numbers in the second half, particularly in the fourth quarter. So who's to say he wouldn't have got it together after halftime and possibly, got a couple of touchdowns for the Bears to give them a win. So who knows?
I think based off of what he was doing in the first half and not being able to find open receivers and running the first down himself, I think that alone would have made a huge difference in the second half, to at least advance the ball down the field and quite possibly, at some point find somebody that can run this ball into the end zone if I don't have to do it myself.
And they were characteristic of themselves the first half of the game. The Birds were. They don't always score in the first half. They're kind of slow to start. That last game was actually out of character for them. So they were slow to start. They hadn't scored, but that's not unusual for them. Mm-hmm. So who would have said going into the second half, if Jay Cutler was still in the game, that it might have been a different outcome? It's possible. But I will say this. It's a little distressing. It's distressing that Jason Campbell, who is a seasoned NFL quarterback, fresh, not like years removed from the game, wasn't able to step in and do more than this. That's a little distressing for me. This offense has not found any balance since the beginning of the year. I know it's a lot of new components to it, And what's interesting is I will give credit to the game plan of they realized that because they were not able to really stretch the field and get the ball to Brandon Marshall, who was the top scorer of the game with maybe like 109 yards, 8 receptions, they were trying to use that middle of the field with the tight ends. And Kellen Davis was just a bust tonight and then fell back and got the wind knocked out of him. But
knocked himself out.
Seriously. Missed the ball and fell out and knocked the air out. But I'm just saying. So the game plan was, okay, we're finally going to try to use our tight ends to use the middle of the field and get that short yardage. But he wasn't able to produce. And this gets back to when you're inconsistent and using all those components on a regular basis, this is what happens.
I think you hit the nail on the head, personally, in my opinion. I think this points more towards Jason Campbell. He isn't Caleb Haney. You know what I mean?
No.
He's not even, who was the other guy last year, the third string guy they brought in?
McCowan?
Yeah, he's not him. This is a guy who started for long stretches in the NFL. He's not an old guy either. So,
see, the other thing.
But he looked, I mean, just looking at it right here in the studio, he didn't look all that in control of the offense. Thank you. Thank you to
Appreciate Eileen for this
yeah.
wonderful concept that is just growing and evolving.
Yep. Thank you for all your listening tonight that you've done out there, for putting up with us when our scatterbrain show
while the
tonight.
game was on.
Right. We were watching the game with you. So thank you to Christy, Tony as well for joining us talking about the Bulls in the first hour of the show, and we'll check you out next week.